now that things have stabilized and rates have been in the fours, mid and high fours on the insured side, and in the fives for conventional, people become accustomed to it. And so they're, it's one of those, it is what it is now. This is what our payments are.
You're listening to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast with your hosts, Paul Stevenson, David Warren, and Greg Campbell. Let's see what's going on in the world of real estate today.
Welcome to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast. We are back. Welcome to the Ottawa Real Estate Podcast, where we bring you the latest insights into our nation's capital, real estate and buying and selling and everything. Hey guys, how are you?
Hi, Paul. You sound like you're mobile. You sound like you're from somewhere that is not a desk.
Yeah, I'm driving. I have no ChatGPT assistant. It's just me, myself, and my radio.
I love it. The radio.
Yeah, and you guys.
And us.
Yeah, and you guys. Yeah, we are back. We're at the end of May, gentlemen, and the market seems to be heating up. But first, how was everyone's weekend? What did we get up to? Greg, you had an adventurous weekend?
I did. I had a great weekend. If all of our listeners, it was funny actually. One of my now friends and clients, Matt Williams, he's coming to town from the UK. Can't wait to meet this guy. He was like, I talked to him on, I think it was Friday, I guess. He was wishing me good luck, and I forgot that we talked about it, so I thought that was pretty cool. But the event on Saturday was wild. It was packed. Haven't played to a packed room like that in years. And I was telling Dave before, like, at one point the room was full, the VIP by the stage was full, and behind the DJs on the stage was full. It was just like, it was just amazing energy. So yeah, we did really well. We played a killer set. Everybody loved it. The guys that do the night, they want to have us back. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing a couple more nights in there. It just felt really nice to actually DJ out in a proper nightclub environment that was busy. I had a lot of friends show up, and it was just super fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I was very disappointed that I missed that, but you did graciously, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, you did share your playlist with me when I was asking you for. I told Greg that I needed some bangers for my run yesterday, and he sent me his whole playlist for Saturday night. So I felt like I was there in spirit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Did you get my voice memo? Did you get my voice memo last night?
No, dude, I saw it. Yesterday I totally tuned out. I just did nothing. I was like, Anna and the girls went to go to a pool. They're like, "Do you want to come?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "I'm gonna barbecue for myself, and I'm going to do absolutely nothing today. Please allow me this day to do that." So it was so it's a super chill. I didn't check your voicemail. Sorry, Paul. Let's leave your voicemail till next week then.
Sure. Well, you can play it on the air.
I'm gonna make that mix. I'm gonna make a full mix, and once it's done, I'll share the link to Mixcloud.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
If anybody wants to hear it.
And Paul, you had a busy day yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah. So when this comes out tomorrow, the 30th will be my 40th on the 40th birthday. So I ran the Tamarack half marathon yesterday, which was a pretty awesome experience. I think just like as a community, I couldn't believe how many runners there were. First of all, I think there was 9,000 in the half, and just standing at the starting line near City Hall and just seeing tens of thousands of people between volunteers and fans and everything. It was a pretty awesome scene, and even just running with that community, like everyone kind of with a common goal, running the same direction. I don't know. It was kind of euphoric at some points. But what I loved the most was some of the signs that I saw, like kids and supporters and stuff were all holding signs. And some of the best ones were at the 3 kilometer mark, a kid had a sign that said, you're not almost there, which I thought was hilarious. It actually made me laugh. And then someone else had a sign that said, there's a lot of work for a free banana. Pretty funny. And then someone else's sign said, don't complain, you paid for this, which is also true. So there was some really good. but all along, like, thank you to all the volunteers, anyone who took part in the weekend. Like, I was amazed at how smooth everything ran, the baggage claim, like just the whole nine. And shout out primarily to the person at the 18K mark that handed me a freezie. I was like on my last legs and I was dying for water. I was dehydrated. I was trying to stay hydrated as best I could, but it was so hot. And someone just walked out with a single freezie, and it was amazing. It was a great experience.
Nice.
I had a lot of fun. Yeah.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then after that, had some family over. We did a little family BBQ. I wasn't moving much, but I was eating a lot.
That's awesome. Yeah, the video you shared with me of being at that start line was pretty packed and pretty crazy. I know when we lived down in Golden Triangle, we'd always go out to watch the runners along the canal, and was always shocked at how many people partake and pass by. It's a great weekend, great event. Like you said, always really well organized, a lot of good volunteers. So kudos to any of you that are listening.
Yeah, what'd you get up to,
Yeah,
David?
absolutely.
It looks like you're at the cottage.
Yeah, we came up Saturday morning, and we ended up I was going to come back yesterday, but a couple of friends and their little ones came up, so we decided to stay the night, and
Nice.
they'll be heading back down to the office right
beauty
after
day.
this.
And it's
Yeah.
a beauty day. The weather just makes everything so much better, man. It's like I keep thinking of our winter, our weeks in Mexico, right? Like just my whole sense of well-being was enlightened just being there in the sun all the time. And then, especially coming back and transitioning through the end of winter, spring, and now into this weather again, it's like it realizes how much, I don't know, me in particular, like I feel compromised and my work is not the same when it's not like this.
Mm-hmm.
We're Geminis, Greg.
It really affects me, man. And I know it does a lot of people, but it's for me, I don't know. I just
we're Geminis. We are living, breathing mood rings. We just fluctuate.
I love that. That's the truth. That is the truth. Yeah.
So what's going on? What's shaking in the real estate world?
Well, I must say something, again, I brought it up last week as well. People still not believing, but at all different price points, multiple offers and no conditions. I had a client, property in Westboro listed at $1 million. They offered at 1.1 and lost, no conditions. That was their offer. I don't know what it went for, but they were 100,000 over asking and lost. Other at 700,000, multiples lost. My client out in Vancouver still can't get a condo.
Wow.
Lost out for a 12th time.
12 offers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, not just here, but also out west. But I'm pulling for my buddy Naveed out in Vancouver.
You gotta get it, bro.
I got another email in my inbox saying I'm offered on this property at this. Like, how does it look? He sent me that last night, so I'm pulling for you.
Well, we did, and just on our end, Luca and I listed a property last week in Center Point, and there was nothing like it out there, and we were having a hard time trying to figure out where to list it. And the last year in summer when I first started talking to my client, we I said, listen, maybe you're at 825 with the market changing. I said, I can't guarantee you even 850 at this point, even though it was a big 4-bedroom single, original owner. And then when we went to list, we were looking at the recent sales, and it was like, 899 for sure. And we put it on at 899 and we got 10 offers. And
wow.
It's sold conditional. The conditions are due today. I believe we're going to firm up, but I'll let everybody know the final sales price, but it's big, and that's on a $900,000 home. So you can imagine if we got 10 offers on that, what that looks like, and we're seeing it everywhere. There's still homes sitting. There's still opportunities for people on the ones that may need a little bit of work. And I suggest if you're really looking to buy, getting in the market, just go into those ones that have been sitting for a bit, because they are there. If they need a little bit of work, so what? Like you're saving yourself a lot of pain by waiting till the perfect one comes out, and then you got 20 other people who want the same house.
And not to and for those looking for just that, something that might need a little bit of updating, for not to forget about Purchase Plus Improvements Program. So it's for anyone that's, you know, possibly looking at a property that might need a little bit of work, or maybe you're working with a client that is looking at properties that might need a little bit of work. Don't forget about that program. Purchase Plus, it's an insured program. It can be with as little as 5% down. You can tack on your renovation money. There's some lenders that'll even go all the way up to $100,000 they can get for rental money. So not to forget about that
Absolutely.
program, because they're huge. You might need a bathroom, you might need some flooring or a kitchen or all of the above, and you could wrap it all into the mortgage. So again, just, you know, keep that in mind.
And that's a perfect pitch for right now, because it's like that whole thing kind of disappeared over the last little while. But now with situations like this and what's going on in the market, it's perfect to consider that.
You know what I found though? I think the reason why we haven't been seeing too much of that is because of increased down payments. Like I think, don't quote me on this, but I think the average down payment now for first-time home buyers is pretty close to that 20% mark. So I think the people are just putting larger down payments, and this is an insured program. So that Purchase Plus is offered through CMHC and Sagen. So I have seen them make exceptions at 20% to do it. But typically it's for mortgages that have, you know, not between 80 and 100% loan to value. So, you know, less than a 20% down payment. So I think that may be a partial reason why we haven't seen it as much. But I think the other side of that is just the lack of knowledge. Like I think it's just not common knowledge that program exists. We obviously talk about it ad nauseum, but at least we've talked about it multiple times in the past. But it's an awesome program. I know I've said it before. I've taken advantage of it, and it certainly pays its dividends over even a short time frame.
Yeah. So
who doesn't like dividends?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? So we had a couple of questions from last episode. I'll just touch.
I can go through the first one. The first one's actually a friend of mine.
Perfect.
From DJ Ducats. What's up, Dan? He's talking about he's just about to get his license, and he wants to recommend anything for beginners to keep in mind when they're just starting out. Now,
mortgage or real estate license?
Real estate license. Sorry, real estate. That's why I took this, because I know that he's getting this. And it's funny, you know what happened? I actually have an ebook that I did about starting out as an agent, what to do. Like it's kind of like a field operation manual. Nice. After you get your license, and I wrote it. It's been done for months, and I haven't branded it and put it out yet. But it's coming out. But Dan, I'm gonna send you the link to that so you can check it out. So I will say, you know what? I'll do this for a few people. If there's any new agents listening and they want the link, like I said, it's not done, but I'll send a free copy to like the first couple of agents that chime in here. If they want it, just send me your email and I'll send you over the link, because I would like to get an opinion from some people that are just starting out that I might not know, to see if they think it's helpful, because that'll help me know if I should change anything before I actually launch the project. I wrote it with one of our managers in the office, Andrea Maydot. It's pretty good, and she's on the works for the she's what's the word that I'm looking for? She's works with the Ottawa Real Estate Board as well. She's been in the business for a long time, and she knows a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that are good to be aware of.
At a high level, though, you know, obviously, I definitely implore people to reach out to you for that ebook. At a high level, though, for any new agent, what would you recommend? Just at a like kind of that couple high level points.
What would I recommend for a new agent?
Yeah.
I would recommend for a new agent to, especially now, I would recommend that you align yourself with a very strong mentor or join a team. Like, to be honest, anyone coming into the business, there's two things, you know, if this is your full-time, if you're going in full-time, you should have at least 6 months of finances in the bank. because it will probably take you 3 to 6 months until you actually start seeing any money. Generally, it's not always the case. If you're working with a team, that could come a lot quicker. And
probably 6 months.
Probably 6 months. And I would also, if you're joining a team and if they present to you a 2-year contract to sign, I would sign it, because the amount of value and knowledge you're going to get working with a team over 2 years is unparalleled. Except there should be a contingency that if you do not get the service that you're looking for from that team, that you can be able to leave. And that's a deep conversation, and there's a lot of things that you need to know. I'd be happy to talk to people more in depth about that, because there are people who join teams and they don't feel like they're getting the attention they deserve, and that's just absolutely terrible. So that's why I say, just, take your time and really try to align yourself with the right people. But for example, like, I'll tell you something, at our brokerage right now, we're not taking on
the agency. We're
not taking on new agents unless they're going to be working with somebody in our office, because we believe that it's almost like a disservice kind of at the same time. Like, they need to be aligned with somebody else to help them along the way. And although, I shouldn't say that exactly like that, but we're working with a lot of people and a lot of our agents together to make sure that we're at the level to give help to the new agents that come in. Like, we have one guy coming in, joining our team soon. And there's a couple other people that just joined on other teams and partnered up in our office to make sure that everybody's doing the best work that they can. And then the other thing, what did I say? I said money in the bank and join a team. I think those are my highest points of what you should be doing when you're starting in this business. Yeah. If you start out alone, it's a long road, man. And to finance that machine, you need a lot. It's not an easy business.
I think one thing that people get hung up on as new agents is joining a team. They think, oh, I'm going to be paying such a high split to that mentor. It's so expensive. All this.
Yep.
100% of nothing is nothing. You're better off taking 50% of something and learning, and you only learn by doing as many deals as possible, and you're not going to get that on your own.
And this is
learn from somebody, and just consider it, you're paying for a service. Learn from them.
And this is what happens sometimes. People get into it, and let's say you're into it for your first 2 months, and let's say you're one of those people, you're a new agent, you join a team, and you get lucky for whatever reason. And I will call it luck, because there's no rhyme or reason to stuff like this when it happens. You're in for a couple months. Let's say you did 4 deals, and all the deals were your own deals. Okay. And then you felt that you were paying too much in fees to the team for the service and the mentorship that they provide. So you were like, this sucks. I don't want to be on this team anymore. This contract is garbage. And then, whatever, it ends badly. You feel like you weren't getting the attention you deserve because you didn't get the leads from the team, and you did all your own business. Now what happens is you leave the team, and then after that 2 business, you have no business of your own for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then you wish that you stayed on the team, because you probably would have closed another 4 deals. And this happens all the time. So you really have to be aligned and be clear on what the goals are and the objective of your own business and the team's business before you kind of start making these rash decisions. Everybody has to communicate, because that kind of shit that I was just talking about happens all the time. It's like when you have money, you want to keep it all to yourself. And then when you don't have money, you're happy to be on a team where you're just getting a little bit. So you have to, it's the long game in real estate. It's the long game. It's not the tomorrow game. It's not the casino.
Yeah. You made a very good point. But when you said 3 to 6 months, 3 months is extremely optimistic. Obviously for new agents, like, you would have to have, like, typical closings are 60 to 90 days, right? So, I mean, if you got a deal your first day licensed and it closed as fast as possible, then you might get paid in 3 months. But like you said, a 6-month buffer is probably the minimum you're going to want. I remember when I was transitioning as a fat banker at a bank here in Canada, I was transitioning into a mobile mortgage rep. And I remember the gentleman at TD asked me, the first thing he asked me before in an interview first thing he asked me is, how many people do you know? That was what he asked. I'm like, excuse me? I didn't really understand what he was asking. But he basically wanted to know how large my network was, because he said that's basically where you're going to get your business in the short term, which was absolutely false. And obviously I didn't stay in that role too long because I saw the light of becoming a broker. However, it is very important to, like you said, have that mentorship. Like I have agents, friends who are realtors that in their first year, some have done, 5 to 6 ends, which is probably the standard. And then I have another friend who's only been in the business for a year, and he did 27 ends last year because he has a mentor. He's working with someone, he's learning. And as you said, Dave, you kind of write off that additional 50% as mentorship. Like that's what you're paying for. And Greg, I can imagine that probably happens all the time where people, like you said, they have, their aunt, their cousin, and their brother's buying a home, and all of a sudden they feel like they don't need that support.
Yeah.
And then the river runs dry, and they're scrambling. So it's not, a lot of people kind of glorify the real estate business. Like it is there's a lot of hard work on the back end that goes into just having those conversations, like even just getting those leads. We're all fortunate enough to be deep enough in our careers that we have, referrals from existing clients. We have a database, we have repeat clients, we're very fortunate in that sense. But I remember in our first couple of years, like, it's not easy to get clients. Your friends and family are usually the last people that are going to work with you, just because, especially on the financial side, people are very hesitant to share their debts or their savings or what have you with you as someone who's close to them, because especially when you're new in the industry, like it's different when you're in for 10 years and they trust you and they know that you're good at what you do and so on. But when you're just starting out in the business and, you were maybe in a totally different industry prior, and now you're talking about finances, if you worked in, let's say, the restaurant industry, or you were in trades or working retail or wherever, and now you're talking about giving them financial advice, it's a huge shift mentally for them as your friend or family member to be like, okay, Greg's now our financial guy. Okay. But, it's a bit of a shift, right? So if you have that mentorship and you can learn and they know you're working with a good team on both sides, it makes it that much easier for people to want to work with you.
It took me forever to kind of figure that out when I started, because the one advantage I had is that I worked with my mother as her admin for a year while I was getting my license, so I knew all the back end work, and I had been on presentations and I had done open houses, or sat in just because I was able to. And what's interesting about real estate for most people is that they're working their job and then they're doing the courses and then they get into it, but then they don't know anything of the back end. Now, so this is kind of like an interesting, I'm kind of backpedaling here a bit, because when I say join a team, when you join a team, you're going to get the assistance of an admin. So there are a lot of things that you may not know how to do right away. So that's another question to ask. I would suggest that you learn how to do some of that back end system, although you have assistance, because if you ever leave the team, you're going to need that help. Maybe if you're fortunate enough to do well when you leave, you can have an admin. But if you don't, like 100%, you need to know how to do it. Practice, just 90% practice, 10% execution, right? But it's just I feel that if you're lucky enough to start young and you can work at least part-time as an admin for somebody, I think that that's hugely valuable. Or find yourself in a position where someone can pay you a small salary to help them out a few days a week while you're getting your license. Because when you get it, like, hey, I'm in real estate, I got my license, what's up, let's get paid. No, it's not how it works. It's a grind.
So on a completely shifting gears on questions.
Great question though. Great question.
Yeah, great question that we just ranted on for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But so completely shift. Another question from Bicharon. Where are all the listings, guys? Because I thought this was the high season for new listings. Do you think there'll be more listings coming out soon or post summer for some reason? Where are the listings, Gregory?
We're at the peak of it officially. Like it's a seller's market officially, basically, as of, I would say, now. So I think that the sellers are going to take advantage of that.
Are you expecting that listing ratio? It was 1.9 last month in April. Are you expecting that to have come down when the May numbers come out?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, what do we say? I'm going to say 1.5. I'll be conservative. I was going to say 1.3. I'm going to say 1.5.
And there's I mean, you can't really define it. I mean, some people just aren't selling. Some people don't want to sell. Maybe the ones that do are kind of like slowly anticipating that it's going to go up even more. You can't really, push the button of what's the term I'm looking for here? I can't get it. Push the button. You can't really put your finger on it,
on the pulse.
You can't put your finger on it. We try to guess, but there's no, with that. I mean, people, not as many people that want to sell as there are the people want to buy. There's a lot of buyers
and also,
out there now.
There's probably a lot of sellers that also are people considering selling that don't want to deal with the buying side of it.
Same thing as last time.
Yeah.
Well, I could sell and make money, but then I got to also deal with multiple offers on the other side, no conditions. Like there's risks on both sides. So it's great to sell for, 100K over asking, but then unless you're downsizing or moving outside the city, you're going to be competing on the other side as well. So how many people want to deal with the, double the headache right now?
And to that point, it's exactly that. People making a lateral move, one house to another, not it's not inventory being sold off. And again, we've talked about it ad nauseum in past episodes. There's still a migration to Ottawa of people coming in. So you've got these people that are looking to buy first and then sell, which I find has been the case, and not selling first and then buying, because they don't want to get stuck in that situation of, nowhere for their family to go. And then the increased demand from people moving into the city. But I think it'll be interesting in 2 weeks' time, or I guess a week Wednesday, of what the Bank of Canada does, and on June 7th, and how that will, what that'll look like in 2 weeks' time, of whether our conversations with clients and what we're seeing in the marketplace from just a sentiment, because there's a possibility that they increase a quarter point on the 7th, as the economic data continues to maintain and be strong. But we'll see.
Yeah, there's no, I don't know why. I don't think there's going to be more coming out at all. I think it's going to stay exactly the same as it is. There's going to be more buyers and less sellers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another one from Bicharon. So the 499 list prices have increased to what compared to a few months ago? As you guys kept saying, most listings that sell are selling for 5 to 10% over listing on average. What are you seeing? So basically, we were talking about, I think a few weeks ago or a little while ago, of seeing average list price or a lot of list price of 499. Is that kind of typical list price come up at all? Have you seen that, Greg?
499 is, there's other properties that are going to become the 499 that might have been a 450 before. The 499 properties are going to be the 525s, 550. 399s are going to be the 425, 450. The 399s, they're mostly the condos, condo towns, stack towns. Any stack town right now that's coming out at 399 is getting a lot of action. There's been a few in the low to mid fours selling in multiples, because that's still the hottest market. Oh, well, one of the hottest markets.
Mm-hmm.
It's going up, and it's going up quicker than before. And that's, I think, going back to where we were, a few months ago, talking about, the 710 and then predicting the 725 by June. Like we're into the 800s now.
Mm-hmm.
For average. Median's probably maybe a little bit less, but anyway.
Yeah, I think we've completely lost sight of value in Ottawa. Like I had a client last week, I pre-approved them up to 500,000 on a freehold, and their exact response to me was, that's not going to get us anything.
No.
Yeah, which they're
There's
right.
nothing available.
But when
There's nothing available.
But when you think of $500,000, even 5-10 years ago, like that was a beautiful single family home. Like I think we've just completely lost sight of value, like of what things are actually valued at. I understand people are willing to pay it. This is, it's a supply and demand. It's what it is. People are paying the prices. But I'm just saying, in Ottawa, we have this kind of like amnesia of what prices were. That when you're telling someone they can buy up to $500,000 and they literally can't find a single home, there's a serious problem there,
And talking about buying and selling, another question from Karim. I think this is more geared towards Paul and I. Hey guys, could you please touch on the blended rates next episode, pros and cons? So what Karim's referring to is when selling your home, hoarding your mortgage, meaning moving it from one property to another. Typically, let's say you buy a home at $600,000, your mortgage is $400,000, and you need $500,000. You only have $100,000 available for equity for down payment. Getting that loan amount up, so your rate on the $400,000 is at, let's call it 3.5%, and you want to move that $400,000 over and then top it up to that $500,000. And that's so you're blending your rate. So using a weighted average, that $100,000 would be at the new rate, your old being at that existing rate, and then blending it to term. It's something you should absolutely look into. There's rarely a con with it unless your existing rate is higher than where they are now. But you really need to factor in your penalties, where rates are at, and just get quotes for both. What it would look like hoarding and increase your rate and blending, or breaking and getting a whole new rate and term. Typically, you're having to maintain your same amortization, so this is something to keep in mind. So your payments, you could only have 20 years left, so your payments are going to be based on that 20-year, whereas perhaps paying the penalty or breaking, you can then get into a 30-year amortization if you're putting 20% down or more, and getting a whole new mortgage where your payments might actually be less, even if the rate is slightly higher. So it also comes down to what the numbers look like and what your objectives are and budget. But it's certainly something where I always say to clients, absolutely, let's look at what that looks like, what the penalties associated, what the payments are, that principal pay down and interest costs, and then compared to breaking and getting a whole new mortgage.
Yeah, I just posted it in our chat here, but I'll make sure it's in the episode description as well. But last 2 articles ago that I wrote was actually specifically about hoarding versus breaking, because there are so many people that are kind of midterm, and they are moving. So it's a very important question, and I kind of give a breakdown to the pros and cons in both. So if that is Karim, you said it was, that asked, so maybe check out that article, and it gives a really good breakdown of the pros and cons to both hoarding and breaking.
Awesome.
I got a quick stat here. I just find this very, very interesting, just based on what we're seeing in the numbers in Ottawa. The national average home price in Canada was $716,000 in April, and that was down 3.9% from a year earlier, but it's up $103,000 from January. That's from CRA. So
wow.
So basically we're where we were, a year ago, the same time where we said we'd never be again. Like, we're right on the cusp of that.
And rates are higher.
And rates are higher. That's what I mean. People are finding money. They're getting creative and finding money. Now, is this good or bad? A lot of people they'll sit here and hate on everything, but it's the way that it is. I also think a lot of people are getting tired of commenting on how shitty they think things are run in this country. It's like people are just starting to do or do not. There's more buildings than ever before right now converting that were supposed to be for sale, turning into rental buildings. They're realizing that the market there is massive, and that people do not want to spend on the price of building in condos, so they're turning them into rentals. I know we've talked about that a bit. on the show, but there's 2 buildings I just heard of in Ottawa that were purpose built for like oh my goodness, high end. Excuse me. I'm out of it today. I think I drank too much coffee this morning that things are just misfiring.
It's an early morning record.
It is an
overdrive.
There's too much happening in my head right now. I can't focus.
Greg's an overdrive.
Yeah. So anyways, they're converting them into rentals because they're not they just can't get them sold. I don't know, man. I don't know what to tell you, but the rental market is big. People are going into that. There's more builders that are going to be building multi-units to turn into rentals instead of selling. And that's the way that it is. So I think because I'm not seeing in the news as many people commenting about how much they hate and how much they think realtors are greedy. That kind of stopped, didn't it?
The on the rate thing of rates being higher than they were a year ago, and to your point of being up 100,000 from that low, people have also become back to being accustomed to what the rates are. At the beginning, 6 months ago, I guess more than that now, 9 months ago, when rates started coming up, or even a year, started coming up, that they'd become accustomed to the 2% and under rates and 2% rates from 2020 to 2022. As they crept up and the bond market came up and the Bank of Canada increased rates, that obviously froze people just out of fear of what was going on and where things were headed, and that unknown. Now that things have stabilized and rates have been in the 4s, mid and high 4s on the insured side, and in the 5s for conventional, people become accustomed to it. And so they're it's one of those, it is what it is now. This is what our payments are. And I find there's less conversation around rate, if you will. Obviously, what people want to get, obviously, best rate and terms and all that. That's obviously important, but I'm not having those conversations of, oh frig, well, it was 2% only 6 months ago, or only a year ago, or a year and a half ago. Like, where the hell are those? That conversation is dead.
Nice.
That is not there. Rates came up last week with the bond market jumping because of the strong economic data, and they jumped across the board. We mentioned last episode that in the last 10 days they jumped 40 basis points, but so 0.4% for most lenders. Again, this was last week, quoting rates to clients as we were getting pre-approved. It wasn't really a conversation of, well, they were a quarter point less earlier when I talked to you, or anything like that. It's just people, this is what they are. And so to that point, I think people are coming back to the market. I think that's why the properties are moving, because people are just, the payments are what they are, the rates are what they are. They're not expecting them to drop significantly. They understand that properties are still moving, that the market is not collapsing. And so they figure, well, if I'm going to buy, then I'm going to do it and get in the market. So I thought that's an interesting, I found like an interesting switch over the last 9 months, because certainly 9 months ago, every conversation was around, well, could have gotten 2%, and now 6 months ago or whatever. Now that conversation isn't there. So again, it's just confidence in the market. And that's where I think, depending on what happens on June 7th with the Bank of Canada, will be interesting, of whether it's a hold rates where they are for bank prime, or whether there is a slight increase. How that changes the marketplace, whether if it's holding steady, how much more confidence people have in the market, or if it does increase, whether that does put a halt to people, or whether they care, whether it's a topic of conversation or not. I'm curious.
Yeah, I think my fear is that, and I think now, just with the way everything's going, I think they will probably increase rates just to try to, I think it's the only, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. I think it's the only hammer they have is to raise those rates. My fear is that I don't think it's going to change anything. Like, the current landscape we're in, as we've said for the last 2 years, is a supply issue. And I think raising the rates is not, like, anyone who's out there buying or willing to pay that 100K over asking, like, it's not going to phase them. Like, that quarter or half point or whatever it is, like, is not going to change their direction. And the other thing I wanted to say, to your point, Dave, with those increased rates, really important. If you're a mortgage agent or if you're a client out pre-approved and shopping, you need to get pre-approved again, because your buying power just decreased again by probably 30 to 50,000. So it's really important to know when you're getting pre-approved, what rate is your broker or your bank using for that pre-approval? Is it a fixed rate? Is it a variable rate? And when the rates shift like they did last week due to the bonds, you need to get pre-approved again if they're using the fix. So really important to keep in communication with your mortgage agent or bank representative to make sure that you're shopping accurately. The worst thing you can do, especially in a competitive situation like we have now on offers, is be working with a number that's 50,000 higher than what you're actually pre-approved for now. So
expectations, and that's exactly right, Paul. Buyers are just they're shopping with what they could afford 6 months ago.
Yeah,
and that needs to change. Their perspective on everything needs to change
for everyone, whether you're a realtor, whether you're a mortgage broker, or whether you're a client, a buyer. Make sure that your clients or yourself are getting pre-approved, but a rate lock pre-approval, so that as rates, like we saw with the bond shift or with Bank of Canada, any shift there from a variable perspective affects, what you need to qualify on. If you are locked in on a rate and pre-approved, that rate lock is good for up to 120 days, so 4 months. So if you find a property and close within that 120 days, you're not going to be affected by any changes in those rates. So it's certainly important to verify, with your clients, either if you're a realtor, make sure they're, that finding out whether they have a rate lock and finding out when that expiry of that rate lock is, because if rates have come up since they got that, then as Paul said, they're going to have to get pre-approved, because if their closing date is not within that 120 days, then they're going to be subject to that new qualifying. If you're a buyer, just be cognizant of that. Even if you haven't found something within a month or month and a half, and rates are still maybe where you were, where you had that rate locked, redo it again and get it pushed out another 120 days. Mortgage brokers, just be cognizant of who's out shopping, who you've been helping pre-approve, and again, get those back in.
I would say if you're shopping, like you said, if you're shopping every 2 to 4 weeks, you should be looping around again and just making sure nothing's changed, because that's happened a few times where people just, we've had the other side too, where rates have actually gone down and they're buying, but their buying power has gone up. But it happens all the time. So it's just, I'd say at minimum, if you're actively shopping, like every 2 to 3 weeks, I would probably just make sure, has anything changed? If your agent isn't proactively doing that for you, just verify with them, just to make sure that, you don't have any surprises. And again, I mean, obviously it's a personal decision, but always very wise to include at least a single condition if you can, just so that, inspection, financing, if anything goes awry, you have some options, some side doors to sneak out of.
All on that note, should we sneak into the mood boost here, Paul?
Segues.
Yeah, I sent them in the chat earlier before I started driving. So if one of you gentlemen wants to take the reins for today.
I'll do them. Can I do them, Dave?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay. Let's see if I'm as good as Paul is here. What do you call an unpredictable camera? A loose cannon. A loose cannon. What do sprinters eat before a race? Nothing. They fast.
They fast.
They fast. The person who invented autocorrect should burn in hello. Yes, Paul. Yes. Yes.
I must say, seeing them ahead of time is not as enjoyable of not knowing what's coming.
That's true. I enjoyed reading them though. That was fun. That was fun. Yeah.
We'll be back. I'll be back next week at the desk.
Yeah.
The early time, there was some confusion. There was between the race and the get together yesterday. Both my sons have PD days today, But my youngest actually has a retreat that he had to go to at 9 that I completely forgot about in Smiths Falls. So it was an earlier morning than I was expecting. But nonetheless, we're here. We made it. We got through another episode, surprisingly. And if you're listening,
we did it.
You.
We push on. We push on. Yeah. Continue.
We pity all of you for listening, but we'll be here again next week to punish your ears again. So new episodes are released every Tuesday at 10 a.m. And you can check them out on YouTube. If you can subscribe, that's fantastic. And you can also subscribe on iTunes and Spotify, and they'll notify you when a new episode comes out. And thank you, as always, for your listening. For your listening, and we'll see you next week.
Three guys talk about things.
3 wild and crazy guys.
Oh, wow!
All right, we'll be back.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, because we'd really like that.